On April 15, 2026, at the Army Aviation Association of America's Army Aviation Warfighting Summit in Nashville, Tennessee, the U.S. Army has officially unveiled the name of the aircraft that will profoundly shape the nature of warfare over the next 2 decades. Meet the MV-75 Cheyenne II. It is a $70 billion bet on tiltrotor technology. And the moment the announcement dropped, the internet exploded with questions. Why is the Army spending $70 billion on V-22 Osprey knockoff? Didn't the Osprey have a terrible safety record? Is the Army just making the same mistake twice? Before we talk about this aircraft, we have to talk about the name Cheyenne, because in the history of Army aviation, that name carries a massive amount of historical baggage. Back in the late 1960s, Lockheed developed the AH-56 Cheyenne attack helicopter. It was an absolute marvel of engineering for its time. It used a rigid rotor system and a pusher propeller, allowing it to hit speeds over 250 miles per hour. It was so fast that the Soviet Mi-24 Hind looked like a flying brick by comparison. But the original Cheyenne was a wild horse that the Army couldn't tame. Plagued by technical failures, fatal crashes, and massive budget overruns, the program was painfully canceled in 1972, paving the way for the AH-64 Apache. For over 50 years, the name Cheyenne lay dormant. But on April 15, 2026, it was resurrected. This time, not as a tragic failure, but as the vanguard of a new era. The Army selects helicopter names from Native American tribes based on the characteristics of the aircraft. Army leadership noted that the Cheyenne people were historically recognized as some of the fiercest, most highly disciplined, and fastest warriors on the battlefield. The name represents speed, range, and adaptability, the exact DNA of the MV-75. It is a powerful, uniquely American tradition. But nostalgia doesn't win wars. Let's talk about the hard numbers and why the Army need this. The UH-60 Black Hawk has been flying since 1979. Its top speed is roughly 180 miles per hour, with a combat radius of about 370 miles. In 1985, those numbers were fantastic. In 2026, those numbers will get an entire squad of infantrymen killed before they ever reach the landing zone. I'm not exaggerating. Just look at the battlefield in Ukraine. Since the conflict erupted in 2022, the Russian Army aviation fleet has been decimated. According to open-source intelligence from Oryx and reports from the UK Ministry of Defense, Russia lost well over 280 helicopters in the 4 years of the war. Why did they take such catastrophic losses? Because traditional helicopters are too slow, too fragile, and their weapons keep them too close to the threat. The Ka-52 Max is out around 186 miles per hour. Because of this slow speed and short range, they are forced to operate deep within the engagement envelope of modern manpads. You've all seen the footage. Russian pilots are forced to fly at treetop level, pitch the nose up, fire unguided rockets in a desperate parabolic arc, and pray they don't catch a Stinger missile on the way out. The lesson for the Pentagon was stark. If the U.S. Army ever goes to war in the Pacific or in Eastern Europe against a near-peer adversary, they cannot fly Black Hawks into contested airspace. They need an aircraft that can fly faster, fly farther, carry more, and survive longer. Enter the MV-75 Cheyenne II. According to the official data released by the Army in April 2026, the Cheyenne II is a monster. It cruises at 320 miles per hour. That is faster than a high-speed bullet train and nearly double the speed of a Black Hawk. Its unrefueled combat range is a staggering 920 miles. What does this mean? It means standoff distance. While a Black Hawk has to launch from a forward operating base located dangerously close to the front lines, where it can be hit by enemy artillery, the Cheyenne II can launch from a secure base hundreds of miles away, fly around enemy air defense envelopes, and insert troops faster than the enemy's radar network can react. Imagine a scenario where U.S. forces need to rapidly insert a company of air assault infantry from Ramstein Air Base in Germany directly to the front lines in Estonia over the Baltic Sea. If you use Black Hawks, the flight takes over 6 hours. You have to land and refuel at least twice. Every time you land, you create a massive vulnerability window for an ambush or a cruise missile strike. If you use the MV-75 Cheyenne II, you take off from Germany, fly direct with 0 refueling stops, and hit the target in under 3 hours, completely bypassing the Russian S-400 anti-air bubbles in Kaliningrad. But whenever you mention tiltrotors, the elephant in the room immediately appears, the V-22 Osprey. When the news of the MV-75 broke, the comment sections were flooded with people saying, "Didn't the Osprey have a terrible safety record? Why is the Army doing this again?" It is a completely valid question. We have to look at the engineering. A traditional helicopter is limited by physics. The advancing rotor blade generates lift, but the retreating blade eventually loses lift as forward speed increases, a phenomenon known as retreating blade stall. It acts like an invisible speed limit. A tiltrotor solves this. It takes off vertically like a helicopter, but once in the air, the rotors tilt forward and it flies on its fixed wings like a conventional turboprop airplane. The V-22 Osprey was a pioneer, but its design was mechanically terrifying. On the Osprey, the entire engine and the rotor system pivot together at the end of the wing. This requires a hyper-complex series of gearboxes and cross shafts to ensure both rotors keep spinning if one engine fails. It is mechanically dense, difficult to maintain, and the downward thrust of those massive engines scorches landing zones. The MV-75 Cheyenne II completely fixes this. On this aircraft, the massive engines remain completely fixed and horizontal at all times. Only the rotor hubs and the prop rotors tilt. This seemingly small design change is a monumental engineering victory. By keeping the engines fixed, you drastically reduce mechanical complexity. Fewer moving parts mean higher reliability, easier maintenance, and significantly better safety. Furthermore, because the engines aren't pivoting vertically, the side doors of the aircraft are completely clear. On an Osprey, troops have to run out the back ramp. On the Cheyenne II, troops can fast rope and exit out the side doors exactly like they do on a Black Hawk, while door gunners have a clear, unobstructed field of fire. And the Army is not waiting around. The global threat landscape is accelerating. General Randy George, Chief of Staff of the Army, made it incredibly clear the world is changing too fast. We need to be fast, very fast. Originally, this aircraft wasn't slated to hit units until the early 2030s, but Army leadership has slammed their foot on the gas. According to the April 2026 budget documents, the Pentagon is injecting an additional $600 million into testing and development for fiscal year 2027. They are pulling the timeline to the left. The Cheyenne II will make its first official production model flight this year. So, where does this leave the rest of the world? If the US Army is adopting tiltrotors, are the Russians or the Europeans doing the same? The short answer is no, and they are falling critically behind. Russia recognized the need for speed. They announced a program called the PAC-AA, a theoretical high-speed attack helicopter designed to hit 250 miles per hour. But according to leaked 2025 Russian Ministry of Defense reports, that program is dead in the water, crushed by the financial weight of the Ukraine war and severe technological bottlenecks. Russia hasn't even produced a full-scale mock-up. What about Europe? The most advanced transport helicopter in Europe right now is the NH-90. It tops out around 186 miles per hour with a range of 500 miles. It is a slight upgrade over the Black Hawk, but it is still bound by the physics of a traditional helicopter. While France and Germany are discussing next-generation rotorcraft under their Future Combat Air System umbrella, those designs are stuck on paper and aren't expected until 2040. In the entire world, the MV-75 Cheyenne II is the only tiltrotor assault transport actively moving into production. The United States has spent the last decade leading, learning, and perfecting tiltrotor technology with the Osprey. That institutional knowledge is something that no other country can simply replicate overnight. The US is decades ahead. So, beyond just flying fast, how does the Cheyenne II actually change how the Army fights? It comes down to 3 massive tactical shifts. Shift number 1, strategic air assault. The US Army's 101st Airborne Division, the legendary Screaming Eagles, has been selected as the first unit to receive the MV-75. With the Cheyenne, the 101st goes from being a tactical asset to a theater-level strategic weapon. They no longer have to stage 100 miles from the front lines. They can stage 500 miles away, out of range of enemy ballistic missiles, and execute lightning-fast vertical envelopments deep behind enemy lines. Shift number 2, the golden hour Medevac. In Ukraine, we have watched the horrific reality of modern drone warfare. Medical evacuation by ground vehicles is incredibly difficult and deadly. The golden hour, the critical 60-minute window to get a wounded soldier to surgery, is often impossible to meet. The Cheyenne II's massive speed increase means that a Medevac bird can cover 100 miles in less than 20 minutes. It will literally save thousands of lives by outrunning the clock. Shift number 3, manned-unmanned teaming. The Cheyenne II isn't just a transport, it is a flying digital command node. Boeing has already unveiled concepts for tiltrotor drones designed specifically to act as loyal wingmen for the MV-75 and the Apache. These drones will fly ahead of the Cheyenne, jamming enemy radar, identifying air defense threats, and launching electronic attacks to clear the corridor before the manned aircraft even arrive. And if the worst does happen, and the Cheyenne takes fire, it is built to survive. It features advanced Kevlar armor around critical components, self-sealing fuel tanks, and rotors designed to withstand 12.7mm heavy machine gun fire. Because the engine nacelles are fixed, even if a man-pads hits one engine, the cross-shafting allows the remaining engine to power both rotors, enabling the aircraft to safely transition and land. There are always going to be skeptics. People will say it's too expensive. People will say it's too complex. But war doesn't care about nostalgia. The Black Hawk is an incredible machine that defined a generation of conflict, but its time has passed. The U.S. Army spent 60 years waiting to fulfill the promise of the original AH-56 Cheyenne. On April 15, 2026, that promise was finally delivered. The MV-75 Cheyenne II is not just a new aircraft. It is a loud, 320-mile-per-hour declaration that the United States Army Aviation Branch has officially ushering in a new era of the skies. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you trust the new fixed-engine tiltrotor design to fix the safety issues of the Osprey? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below, and let's discuss it.